I hadn't even said I do when my white dress got stained with blood from my nose and 2 cameras had already been recording. One was the venue's CCTV. The other was the videographer's gimbal set to auto-record for the first look. He had no idea he was performing right in the middle of evidence. When I stood up, I didn't cry. I said exactly one sentence: preserve the scene. And my legal revenge began right there at the altar. My name is Sloane Whitaker, and at 9:45 a.m., on what should have been the happiest morning of my life, my stepfather's fist connected with my face in the bridal suite of Red Barn Vista. The morning had started perfectly. My bridesmaids had just stepped out to give me a moment alone before the first look with Caleb. The Astor Filmworks crew had positioned their gimbal camera by the window. Its red recording light already blinking, they'd set it to pre-roll 5 minutes early to capture authentic reactions. The venue's CCTV dome in the corner was standard, something I'd barely noticed when we toured the place 6 months ago. Wayne Mercer didn't knock. He shouldered through the door, bourbon already tainting his breath despite the early hour. His rental tux was askew, bow tie hanging loose like a noose he'd escaped from. "We need to talk about your grandfather's house," he slurred, jabbing his finger at me. "That money from the sale, and this wedding cash you think you're too good to help your family. Wayne, get out." I kept my voice steady, the same tone I'd used with hostile civilians during my Army Reserve deployment. "This conversation doesn't happen today. Don't you dare!" He lurched closer, spittle flying. "That house renovation I did, the sweat I put into that property you owe me. Your mother agrees. My grandfather left that house to me. The deed has my name on it, has since 2012. Any transfer requires my written consent, which you'll never get." That's when he swung. Not a slap, a closed fist punch that snapped my head back, sent me stumbling into the vanity. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth immediately. My nose throbbed, and I watched in the mirror as red droplets hit the bodice of my $2,000 dress. But here's the thing about being a former Army medic turned internal auditor. You learn to compartmentalize crisis and document everything. "Wayne," I said calmly, pressing tissues to my nose. "You just assaulted me on camera." His eyes darted to the gimbal, then to the ceiling camera. The studio lights the crew had set up earlier bathed everything in perfect, undeniable clarity. The boom mic attached to the gimbal would have caught every word, every threat, every impact. I pulled out my phone, careful not to smear blood on the screen. "Marla, it's Sloane. I need you in the bridal suite immediately. Bring security and preserve all video feeds from the last 15 minutes. Yes, I'm serious." "No, don't let anyone leave the building." Wayne's face went from red to pale. "You wouldn't dare make a scene at your own wedding." "I'm not making a scene," I replied, speed dialing another number. "I'm making a case. Jonah, it's Sloane. I need you to bring your laptop and that emergency injunction template we discussed. Yes, now. Bridal suite." The door burst open. Marla Boyd, the venue manager, took one look at my bloody nose and Wayne's defensive posture and immediately understood. Behind her stood 2 security guards. "Lock down the equipment room," I instructed. "Nobody touches those servers. Get me copies of all footage from 9:40 to 9:50 a.m. Chain of custody protocol. Timestamp everything." "Sloane, baby, please." My mother Ellen appeared in the doorway, her face crumpling. "Let's not ruin your special day." I looked at her, this woman who'd stood by while Wayne sold piece after piece of Grandpa's collection, who'd pretended not to notice the missing money from her accounts. My special day was ruined the moment you told him about the house settlement. But my wedding, that's still happening, and Wayne's going to have front row seats to his own destruction. Jonah Keene arrived, laptop bag in hand, his wedding guest attire incongruous with his all-business expression. "Deputy Price is here as a guest," he said quietly. "She can take a statement whenever you're ready." I stood up straight, dabbed the last of the blood away, and looked Wayne dead in the eye. "In 30 minutes, I'm walking down that aisle, and when I do, everyone in that room is going to know exactly who you are. The cameras don't lie, Wayne, and neither will I. My mother stood there wringing her hands, her carefully styled hair already coming undone. Sloan, honey, please. Can't we handle this privately? After the honeymoon, maybe. Like we handled Grandpa's coin collection privately, I asked, watching her flinch. Or his first edition books, or the World War II memorabilia that mysteriously disappeared from the basement. Wayne poured coffee from the catering cart into a mug, his hands shaking as he topped it off with bourbon from his flask. Those were family assets. I had every right. You had no rights, Jonah interrupted, pulling documents from his bag. I've been reviewing the estate papers Sloan provided. The 2012 co-ownership agreement is ironclad. Any sale, transfer, or significant modification requires written consent from all parties. I opened my phone to the encrypted folder I'd maintained for 3 years. Screenshots of bank statements showing irregular withdrawals. Photos of empty spaces where Grandpa's treasures once sat. Email threads between Wayne and various dealers, using my mother's maiden name to avoid detection. Mom, I said softly, I know you see it. The way he isolates you from your friends. The missing money you pretend not to notice. The wine bottles hidden in the garage. Ellen's makeup ran in tiny rivers down her cheeks. He's not perfect, but he loves me. He takes care of me. He controls you, and he's stealing from both of us. Marla returned with a tablet showing multiple camera angles. The assault was captured in high definition from 2 perspectives. The gimbal had caught Wayne's face perfectly, the rage, the impact, the moment of realization when he understood he'd been recorded. The files are already backed up to 3 locations, Marla said. My security chief is a former cop. He says this is textbook evidence preservation. Jonah was typing rapidly. Sloan, I can file an emergency protective order right now. Judge Harrison owes me a favor. He's actually here as a guest. We can also freeze any joint accounts to prevent asset dissipation. Do it, I said, then turned to my makeup artist hovering in the doorway. Patricia, can you cover this bruising? She examined my face with professional detachment. I'll need theatrical concealer, but yes, though it won't hide the swelling completely. Wayne slammed his mug down, coffee sloshing. You ungrateful bitch, after everything I've done for this family. What you've done, I said, pulling out a printed spreadsheet, is embezzle approximately $47,000 over 4 years. I'm an auditor. Wayne. Did you really think I wouldn't notice? Deputy Mallory Price appeared in the doorway, still in her dress but with her badge now visible. I heard there was an incident requiring documentation. Deputy Price? Jonah said smoothly. We have video evidence of an assault that occurred at 9:45 a.m. The victim requires medical documentation of injuries before the wedding proceeds. Mallory's eyes took in my face, Wayne's aggressive stance, Ellen's tears. I can call for an EMT to document injuries. My body cam is activated for any statement you'd like to make. That won't be necessary yet, I said. We're going to proceed with the ceremony, but I want everyone to know that my attorney, Mr. Keene, has prepared several documents that may need immediate execution depending on how the next hour unfolds. Wayne laughed, ugly and sharp. You're going to march down the aisle with a busted face and pretend everything's fine. No, I replied, letting Patricia begin her work with the concealer. I'm going to march down that aisle and show everyone exactly who you are. Every guest has a phone. The venue has a presentation system. And Jonah here has prepared a very interesting slideshow. Sloan, my mother pleaded one last time. I'm begging you, don't destroy our family. I met her eyes in the mirror as Patricia worked on my face. Wayne destroyed our family the day he sold Grandpa's Purple Heart for drinking money. I'm just documenting the demolition. Jonah closed his laptop. The emergency injunction is ready. Frontier Mutual Bank has agreed to flag all accounts pending investigation. The venue's insurance company wants a full incident report, which means this becomes part of public record. Perfect, I said, standing up as Patricia finished. The bruising was hidden, but the swelling gave my face an asymmetric look that no amount of makeup could disguise. Now, Let's go have a wedding. Wayne, you'll sit in the front row where everyone can see you. Try to leave, and Deputy Price will have questions. Mom, you'll stand as my matron of honor as planned, and when it comes time for speeches, well, I smiled, tasting copper. That's when the real ceremony begins. The bridal suite became a war room. I stood at the center while my team, because that's what they'd become, executed the plan with military precision. I'm not canceling this wedding, I announced to the assembled group, Jonah with his legal documents, Marla coordinating with security, Deputy Price maintaining professional observation, and my bridesmaids who'd returned to find controlled chaos. We're using the ceremony as the venue for what needs to happen. My maid of honor, Jessica, stared at me. Sloan, are you sure we could postpone? 200 guests are sitting in that hall. Judge Harrison is here. Deputy Price is here. 3 partners from Keene and Alder are here. The district attorney's wife is here. I ticked them off on my fingers. When will I ever have this many witnesses and legal authorities in one room again? Jonah nodded slowly. It's brilliant, actually. Public disclosure with maximum documentation. Marla, I turned to the venue manager. Can your AV team create backup copies of the footage on USB drives? I want chain of custody forms for each copy. Already in progress. My security chief is personally overseeing it. I pulled out my phone and opened a shared document. Jessica, I need you to discreetly inform certain guests about potential developments. Judge Harrison, the 3 Keene and Alder partners, and anyone else with legal standing. Tell them to keep their phones ready to record. This is insane, Wayne snarled from where security had effectively cornered him. You're going to humiliate your mother. No, Wayne. You humiliated her every time you stumbled home drunk, every time you stole from her accounts, every time you sold another piece of my grandfather's legacy. I turned to Ellen. Mom, I have the receipts, literally, including the pawnshop records where you co-signed under duress. Jonah's phone buzzed. Judge Harrison is ready to sign the emergency protective order. He says if there's video evidence of assault, he can issue it immediately following the ceremony. And Frontier Mutual? I asked. Their fraud department is on standby. The moment we file, they'll freeze all accounts pending investigation. The door opened and Caleb appeared, my soon-to-be husband looking concerned but calm. He'd been briefed by text. Whatever you need, Sloan. The groomsmen are ready to assist if required. I kissed him carefully, mindful of my concealed injuries. Just be ready to stand by me when I take that microphone. Always, he said simply. Marla checked her tablet. The main camera operator wants to know if you still want the ceremony recorded. Every second, I replied. In fact, tell him to set up a third angle. I want multiple perspectives of the front row. Wayne tried to push past security toward the door. I'm not sitting through this circus. Actually, you are, Deputy Price said calmly. I've just witnessed you attempt to leave what may be a crime scene. Sit down, Mr. Mercer. I opened my grandfather's army footlocker, which I'd had delivered to the venue that morning for the something old tradition. Inside, alongside his medals and photos, was a folder I'd compiled over 3 years. Jonah, how long would you need to prepare a civil suit? He smiled grimly. With this documentation I could file by Monday. Fraud, conversion of property, breach of fiduciary duty, elder financial abuse. I added, Mom signed a power of attorney for Grandpa in his final year. Wayne accessed those accounts. Ellen gasped. Sloan, you can't prove. I have bank security footage from 14 transactions. Mom, they keep those records for 7 years. Marla's team returned with multiple USB drives, each sealed in evidence bags with chain of custody forms, time-stamped, verified, and witnessed by 3 staff members. Perfect. I stood, smoothing my blood-stained dress. The stains had dried to rust-brown patches that no amount of club soda would fix. Let's make them part of the story. You're walking down the aisle with blood on your dress, Jessica asked, incredulous. Evidence of what happened when someone tried to silence me. I picked up my bouquet white roses that now seemed ironically pure against the stained silk. The photographer will capture every angle. The videographer will record every gasp, and when people ask what happened, we'll show them. Jonah gathered his papers. I'll position myself near the presentation system. Marla, can your tech team have the footage ready to broadcast? Give me 5 minutes to set up the connection. I looked around the room at these people who'd rallied to my defense without hesitation. In 10 minutes, we proceed to the ceremony hall. Wayne, you'll walk Mom down the aisle as planned, then sit in the front row. Any deviation, and Deputy Price intervenes. After Caleb and I exchange vows, there will be a special presentation before the reception. You've lost your mind, Wayne spat. No, I said quietly. I've found my backbone, and in approximately 30 minutes, everyone you know is going to find out exactly what you've been hiding behind that charming facade. The wedding march began at 10:30 a.m. sharp. I watched from the doorway as Wayne escorted my mother down the aisle, his jaw clenched, her hand trembling on his arm. The guests murmured at the sight of them Wayne's disheveled appearance, Mom's smeared makeup hastily retouched. Then came my turn. The gasps started immediately. The bloodstains on my dress caught the light from the venue's chandeliers, impossible to miss against the white silk. I held my head high, making eye contact with key guests. Judge Harrison's eyebrows rose. The Keene and Alder partners exchanged glances. Deputy Price, seated strategically at the aisle's edge, shifted slightly forward. Caleb's face showed no surprise, only love and fierce pride as I approached. Behind him, his groomsmen stood ready, having been briefed to expect anything. The ceremony itself was brief. Pastor Reynolds, an old family friend, faltered slightly at the sight of my dress, but continued professionally. We exchanged rings, said our vows. I meant every word when I promised to stand by Caleb in truth and justice. You may kiss the bride, Pastor Reynolds announced. As Caleb leaned in, Wayne's voice boomed from the front row. Before the celebration, I'd like to say something about family loyalty. He was already standing, moving toward the microphone at the podium. The venue staff looked to me, I nodded. Let him hang himself. This ungrateful girl, Wayne gestured at me, his words slightly slurred, stands here in a dress I helped pay for, in a venue her family funded, pretending she earned all this herself. Sal, phones appeared throughout the congregation. The official videographer swung his camera to capture Wayne in full resolution. The gimbal operator, still recording, adjusted for optimal angle. Her grandfather's house that she clings to, Wayne continued. I renovated that property with my own hands, increased its value by 30%, and this is the thanks I get being treated like an outsider. Jonah caught my eye and tapped his laptop. Ready. Are you finished? I asked calmly, taking Caleb's hand. Not even close. Wayne snarled. You want to air family business? Let's talk about how you abandoned your mother for the military, left her alone. I served my country as a medic, I interrupted, taking the microphone. And speaking of service, let's discuss what happened this morning at 9:45. The LED screens around the room, typically used for displaying couple photos during receptions, flickered to life. Marla's team had worked fast. Ladies and gentlemen, I addressed the room. I apologize for the unconventional presentation, but you should know why I'm wearing blood on my wedding dress. The CCTV footage began playing. Crystal clear Wayne barging into the bridal suite. The argument, his fist connecting with my face. The audio from the gimbal camera overlaid perfectly. That house renovation I did. The sweat I put into that property you owe me. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Several people stood. Deputy Price moved to the aisle's center, her body camera visible and recording. Wayne lunged for the laptop at the tech station. 2 groomsmen intercepted him, both Caleb's army buddies, both considerably larger than Wayne. There's more, I announced. Mr. Keene. Jonah connected his laptop, displaying documents on screen. These are bank records showing systematic theft from Ellen Mercer's accounts. Pawnshop receipts for World War II memorabilia belonging to the late Harold Whitaker. And here, he clicked to the next slide. Property records showing attempted deed transfers without required co-owner consent. "You're destroying your mother," Wayne shouted, struggling against the groomsman's grip. "No." Ellen's voice rang out, surprising everyone. She stood slowly, gripping the pew. "I'm destroying myself by staying silent." She walked to the microphone, her voice shaking but clear. "I knew. God help me, I knew and did nothing. Sloan, forgive me." Wayne broke free, charging toward the podium. Deputy Price stepped forward, badge visible. "Mr. Mercer, stop right there." He didn't. The tackle was professional, controlled, but decisive. Wayne hit the carpet as Price efficiently cuffed him, reciting rights as 3 more phones captured every second. Assault, attempted destruction of evidence, and now resisting arrest. Price announced, "This is being recorded on multiple devices." Judge Harrison stood. "Deputy, I'm prepared to sign an emergency protective order immediately." The venue's security arrived with local police backup that Price had quietly called. Wayne was hauled to his feet, his rental tux torn, his face purple with rage. "You planned this," he screamed at me. "No," I replied into the microphone, my voice carrying to all 200 guests. "You planned this when you decided to assault me 3 hours before my wedding. I just made sure everyone saw the truth." The screens displayed a final image my grandfather in his army uniform. The Purple Heart Wayne had sold visible on his chest. "That medal was recovered from a pawn shop last week," I announced, along with 14 other items. "The investigation begins Monday." The screens flickered again, this time showing the enhanced footage from the gimbal camera. The image quality was devastating, every detail captured in 4K resolution. Wayne's face contorted in rage, spit flying as he screamed, his fist connecting with surgical precision to my face. The boom microphone had captured everything in studio-quality audio. "You fucking ungrateful!" Wayne's recorded voice boomed through the speakers before Marla quickly muted the profanity. But everyone had heard enough. I took control of the presentation remote. "This footage has been preserved with chain of custody documentation. What you're seeing isn't edited or manipulated. The timestamp shows 9:45 barely 90 minutes ago." Click. The next slide showed my grandfather's original will and estate documents. Harold Whitaker left his house to me specifically, with my mother as secondary beneficiary only if I predeceased him. The co-ownership agreement from 2012. Click. Next document. Requires written consent from all parties for any sale or modification over $5,000. Click. A spreadsheet appeared. "This details $47,000 in unauthorized withdrawals from my mother's accounts over 4 years, each transaction traced, documented, and cross-referenced with Wayne's purchases." Jonah stood near the projection system. "For the attorneys present, including the partners from my firm, these documents will be filed with the court Monday morning. Civil suit for fraud, conversion, and breach of fiduciary duty. Criminal charges for assault are being processed as we speak." Wayne, still restrained by Deputy Price and her backup, tried once more to speak. "Ellen, tell them how you agreed." "I agreed under duress," my mother said quietly into the microphone. "Every time. He said we needed the money for bills, but I found the casino receipts, the bar tabs, the sports betting apps. I clicked to a new image security footage from Dalton Ridge Community Bank. 14 visits where Wayne brought my mother to withdraw large sums. Notice her body language. Notice how he grips her arm. Notice how she looks at the teller like she wants to say something but doesn't. A woman in the 3rd row stood Mrs. Patterson from the bank. I remember those visits. We filed suspicious activity reports 3 times. The crowd was fully engaged now, some recording, others simply staring in shock. My wedding had become a courtroom, and I was both prosecutor and key witness. Click. Photos of empty spaces in my grandfather's house. His Medal of Honor, his vintage Rolex from 1943, his first edition Hemingway collection signed by the author, his grandfather's Civil War cavalry sword, all gone. Click. Pawn shop receipts with Wayne's signature. All sold within miles of our home, using variations of my mother's maiden name. The pawn shop owner, Mr. Dmitri, provided these records voluntarily when I showed him Grandpa's obituary. He was horrified. An elderly man near the back stood. That's true. I'm Dmitri. I'm prepared to testify. Had I known these were stolen family heirlooms, I never would have accepted them. Wayne exploded again, lunging so hard that additional officers had to assist. You set me up. You all set me up. No, Wayne, I said calmly. You set yourself up when you decided a family's trust was worth less than your gambling debts. The screens now showed a split image the moment of impact from two angles, CCTV and gimbal, synchronized perfectly. This is assault causing bodily harm, Judge Harrison announced from his seat. I've seen enough for probable cause. I clicked one more time. The screen filled with my grandfather in his army dress uniform, young and proud. Harold Whitaker served 2 tours in Vietnam. He earned a Purple Heart when he saved 3 men from a burning helicopter. He came home, built a business, raised a family, and collected memories not for their monetary value, but for their meaning. My voice cracked slightly. Caleb squeezed my hand. Wayne Mercer sold those memories for gambling money. He stole from a widow who loved him, and when confronted, he tried to silence me with violence. I turned to face the room fully, blood still visible on my dress despite Patricia's earlier efforts. Today was supposed to be about love and new beginnings. Wayne turned it into something else. But here's what he didn't count on. I gestured to the screens. In 2025, cameras are everywhere. Truth has receipts, and justice doesn't require a courtroom when you have 200 witnesses and technology on your side. The venue was silent except for Wayne's heavy breathing and the soft whir of multiple cameras still recording. Mr. Keene, I said formally, please proceed with filing all documentation. Jonah nodded, fingers already flying across his laptop keyboard. Emergency protective order is being submitted electronically now. Frontier Mutual has been notified to freeze all relevant accounts. The district attorney's office will receive our criminal complaint within the hour. Wayne broke free from Deputy Price's grip with a violent twist, shoving past the officer and grabbing the wireless microphone from the podium. His face was crimson, veins bulging at his temples. You want to destroy me? Fine. He wheeled around to face the crowd. But let's talk about what really happened. That house was falling apart when I met Ellen. The roof leaked. The foundation was cracked. The whole place was a disaster. My cousin Trevor, seated in the 5th row, had his phone up, live streaming on Instagram. The angle perfectly captured Wayne's unraveling. I spent every weekend for 3 years fixing that dump. Wayne continued, spittle flying. New roof, new plumbing, rebuilt the deck with my own hands. Where was Princess Sloane playing soldier halfway across the world? I was serving as a combat medic in Syria, I said evenly. You abandoned your family. Wayne shouted, then turned back to the crowd. And now she wants to paint me as some villain. I'm the one who held this family together. I'm the one who took care of Ellen when her precious daughter left. He knocked over a flower arrangement, sending white roses scattering across the floor. 3 more phones lifted to record. The official videographer had never stopped filming. You want to know the truth about that money? Wayne was fully ranting now, pacing like a caged animal. Ellen gave it to me, every penny, because she knew I deserved it for everything I did for that house. Under duress, Ellen said quietly from her seat. Shut up. Wayne spun toward her, and Deputy Price immediately moved closer, hand on her service weapon. Jonah spoke up from his position by the tech station. Mr. Mercer, you're currently being recorded by approximately 70 different devices. Everything you say can and will be used. I don't give a damn about your recordings. Wayne grabbed the laptop from the podium and raised it above his head. Wayne, that's evidence tampering, Judge Harrison warned, standing. Wayne laughed, wild and bitter. Evidence. You want evidence. How about the evidence that this family owes me everything? That house would be condemned without me. Ellen would be alone without me. I saved them. He hurled the laptop toward the screen. It crashed into the projection equipment, sparking briefly, but Marla's team had backed up everything to the cloud. The screens flickered but stayed active. "Mr. Mercer," Deputy Price said firmly, "you're adding destruction of property and evidence tampering to your charges." "Add this too," Wayne snarled, kicking over another flower stand. "And this?" He grabbed a champagne bottle from the gift table. Two of Caleb's army buddies moved in, flanking him carefully. "You all think she's some hero." Wayne waved the bottle. "She's a manipulator who planned this whole thing." Probably damaged her own face for sympathy. The room collectively gasped. Even those who hadn't been recording started now. I stepped forward, keeping my voice steady. "Wayne, you just admitted in front of 200 witnesses that you took money you believed you were owed. That's called confession to theft. It's called getting what I deserved." He pointed the champagne bottle at me. "Every improvement, every repair, every hour of labor you owe me for all of it." "Actually," Jonah interjected, pulling up another document on his phone and casting it to the remaining screens. "According to state law, any improvements made to jointly owned property without written consent from all owners can't be claimed for compensation. You admitted to making unauthorized modifications." "Thank you for that." Wayne's face went from red to purple. "You little," he charged toward me. This time, 3 people moved simultaneously. Deputy Price, both Army groomsmen, and surprisingly, my mother, who stepped directly into his path. "Enough, Wayne," Ellen said firmly. "You've confessed to everything. Theft, unauthorized improvements, assault. You did this to yourself." The tackle this time was less gentle. Wayne went down hard, the champagne bottle rolling away unbroken. Deputy Price had him cuffed within seconds while one of the backup officers read additional rights. Assault, destruction of property, evidence tampering, disturbing the peace, and attempted assault with a weapon. Price listed. That champagne bottle counts as a weapon when wielded threateningly. Wayne was breathing hard, face pressed to the carpet. "I'll sue all of you. False imprisonment, defamation, conspiracy." "From prison?" I asked quietly. "Because that's where you're heading." The live stream comments were pouring in on Trevor's phone. I could see them from where I stood. "This is insane." "Better than reality TV. Justice served at a wedding." Judge Harrison approached Deputy Price. "I'll sign any warrants you need immediately. This is the clearest case of self-incrimination I've ever witnessed." Wayne tried to speak again, but Price was already directing the backup officers to remove him. As they hauled him to his feet, his rental tux completely destroyed, he made one last attempt at grandstanding. "Ellen, baby, don't let them do this." My mother walked over to him, steady and composed for the first time all morning. "Wayne Mercer, I want my grandfather's house key back. Now." The LED screens came alive with the second video the gimbal footage zoomed and enhanced. Every detail was surgical in its clarity. Wayne's hand cocking back, the moment of impact, my head snapping to the side, blood immediately flowing from my nose. "I want everyone to see this clearly," I announced, holding the remote. "This angle shows the premeditation. See how he shifts his weight? That's not a reactive slap, that's a calculated punch from someone who's done this before." The audio overlay was crystal clear. "I'll teach you respect on your wedding day." The room was dead silent except for the recorded playback. Several people were openly crying. Others had their phones out, recording the screen. Deputy Price stepped forward with documentation. "Based on the evidence presented, Wayne Mercer is being charged with assault in the second degree, criminal threatening, theft by deception exceeding $10,000, and multiple counts of fraud." She held up an evidence bag containing the USB drives. "These have been logged into evidence. The chain of custody is unbroken." Jonah connected his laptop to the projection system. "Judge Harrison, I'm filing the emergency protective order now." His fingers flew across the keyboard. "Submitted. Also filing for immediate asset freeze and property recovery." Judge Harrison stood. "I'm signing the order electronically now. Mr. Mercer is prohibited from coming within 500 feet of Ms. Whitaker or Ms. Ellen Mercer. Any attempt to access joint accounts or property will result in immediate arrest. A notification popped up on Jonah's screen. Frontier Mutual confirms all accounts involving Wayne Mercer are now frozen pending investigation. Wayne exploded one final time, twisting against the handcuffs. "You can't do this. That's my money." "Actually," I said, pulling out a folder I'd kept hidden until now, "let's discuss whose money it really is." The screen displayed bank records going back 5 years. Wayne's total contribution to household expenses $16,000. Ellen's contribution $190,000. The house renovations Wayne claims paid for with a home equity loan in Ellen's name that she's still paying off. Mrs. Patterson from the bank stood again. "I can verify these records. We maintain detailed transaction histories." I clicked to the next slide, a police report from 2 years ago. "This is from when Wayne was arrested for drunk and disorderly conduct at Riverboat Casino. Bail was posted using money from Ellen's retirement account. Never repaid." Click. Another police report. "DUI last year. Legal fees paid from the joint account. $8,000. Click. Medical bills. Emergency room visit after a bar fight. Ellen's insurance. Her deductible." The crowd was murmuring now, disgust evident on many faces. Wayne's drinking buddies in the back row were trying to become invisible. "But here's the most important document," I said, displaying a notarized letter. "This is from Grandpa's attorney, dated 1 month before he died. He specifically stated that Wayne was never to have access to the property or any family assets. Quote, 'That man is a parasite who will drain Ellen dry if given the chance.'" Ellen stood slowly, walking to the front with surprising steadiness. She reached into her purse and pulled out a key ring. "These are all the keys: Wayne, house, garage, storage unit, safe deposit box." She handed them to me, then turned to face him. "I changed the locks this morning at 8 a.m. before I came to the venue. Your belongings are in boxes on the lawn." The room erupted. People actually applauded. Someone, I think it was Caleb's aunt, shouted, "About time." Deputy Price nodded to her backup officers. "Take him to booking." As they moved Wayne toward the exit, I raised my voice one more time. "Oh, Wayne. That renovation you're so proud of, the one you did without permits." He froze. "City building inspector is scheduled for Monday. Unpermitted modifications to a historical property that's significant fines and possible criminal charges," Jonah added, "plus civil liability for any code violations that need correction." Wayne's face was beyond purple now, almost gray. "You planned this. You all planned this for months." "No," I said simply. "I documented your crimes for 3 years. The plan only started when you walked into that bridal suite at 9:45 this morning and gave me the final piece of evidence I needed." The handcuffs clicked as the officers adjusted them. Wayne Mercer, the man who'd terrorized my mother for years, who'd stolen my grandfather's legacy piece by piece, was finally facing consequences. "Wait," I called out as they reached the door. "There's one more thing." I pulled up a final video on the screen. Wayne at a pawn shop 6 months ago, clearly visible, selling my grandfather's Purple Heart. Mr. Dimitri already agreed to testify. Selling military decorations under false pretenses, that's a federal crime. The sound of the handcuffs was the only noise as Wayne was let out. Then, starting slowly and building like thunder, the wedding guests began to applaud. Not polite golf claps, real, genuine, justice has been served applause. The room fell silent as Wayne was escorted out through the same grand doors he'd strutted through just an hour ago. The sound of police sirens faded into the distance. I stood at the altar, blood still staining my wedding dress, holding Caleb's hand. The MC, recovering his composure, took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, the reception will continue as planned. The bride has chosen safety and justice as her wedding gift to all of us." But I wasn't done yet. I walked to the center of the room where the videographer's camera was still rolling, looked directly into the lens, and made my final statement. Documentation has been filed. Evidence has been preserved. Today is still my day. The gimbal camera that had captured Wayne's assault slowly lowered its angle, the red recording light finally switching off. The venue's CCTV continued its silent vigil from the corner. Having witnessed justice served in real time, Ellen approached me, tears streaming but standing straighter than I'd seen her in years. "The safe deposit box," she whispered. "Your grandfather's Purple Heart is there. I bought it back from the pawn shop months ago, but I was too afraid to tell Wayne." We embraced, and for the first time in years, it felt real. Judge Harrison approached with a document. "Ms. Whitaker, the restraining order is official. Mr. Mercer cannot come within 500 feet of you, your mother, or any property you own," Jonah added. "The forensic accountant will start Monday. With the evidence you've compiled, we're looking at full restitution plus damages." "And," Deputy Price said, returning from coordinating with the arrest team, "the federal prosecutor is interested in the military decoration fraud case. That's serious time." Caleb kissed my forehead gently, avoiding the bruised area. "So, Mrs. Rowan, shall we have our first dance?" In a blood-stained dress, I laughed, the first genuine laugh all day. "It's evidence of your strength," he said simply. "Dance with me." As we moved to the dance floor, our guests rose in a standing ovation. The DJ, who'd witnessed everything, chose Perfectly Fighter by Christina Aguilera. Trevor showed me his phone. The live stream had gone viral. 40,000 viewers and climbing. Comments poured in. "Queen. This is how you handle an abuser. Evidence is everything." The photographer approached tentatively. "Do you still want the formal photos? Every single one?" I replied, "This dress tells a story now. Document it all." As we danced, surrounded by supportive family and friends, I realized something profound. Wayne had tried to destroy my wedding day, but instead, he'd given me something more powerful: the opportunity to break the cycle of abuse publicly, definitively, and legally. The reception continued with an energy I'd never expected. People shared their own stories, thanked me for my courage, promised to check on Ellen. The district attorney's wife handed me her business card. 3 other lawyers offered pro bono assistance. A domestic violence advocate asked if I'd speak at their next event. By 2 p.m., as we cut the cake, pristine white frosting over Devil's Food, which seemed appropriate, Wayne was being processed at county jail. His bail would be set Monday. The charges would stick. We had him dead to rights on camera from multiple angles. Marla approached with a tablet. "Ms. Whitaker, sorry. Mrs. Rowan, the venue would like to offer you something." She showed me the screen. "We're implementing the Whitaker Protocol enhanced security documentation for all events, with special procedures for protecting vulnerable individuals." "Name it after my grandfather instead," I said. "The Harold Whitaker Safety Protocol." As the sun set through the venue windows, casting golden light over the reception, I stood with my new husband, my freed mother, and the knowledge that 2 cameras had changed everything. The CCTV that silently watched, the gimbal that happened to be recording. Together, they'd captured the truth that set us free. My grandfather's Purple Heart would be returned to its place of honor tomorrow. The house would be secured with new locks and a new future. And Wayne Mercer would face justice for every single thing he'd stolen, not just objects, but years of peace, safety, and dignity. I looked one last time at the spot where Wayne had stood ranting just hours ago. The flower arrangements had been replaced, the carpet cleaned, the champagne bottle removed. But the cameras remembered everything. And sometimes, that's all the justice you need. The wedding ended at sunset, but the freedom it brought would last forever. I walked out of that venue not as a victim, but as a woman who'd turned the worst day into the best revenge: complete, legal, and publicly documented victory. Justice, served ice cold with wedding cake. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where in the world you're listening from right now. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, Please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts on how Sloane handled her situation. Your support means everything, and I can't wait to share more stories with you.